Imagine, just for a moment, being dropped into a completely unfamiliar world. Uh, Danger lurking everywhere, complex relationships to figure out, and then finding guidance from, well, totally unexpected sources.
That's exactly the kind of rich mix we're diving into today, drawn from the source material you shared with us.
Yeah, this gripping historical novel.
Precisely. We've got excerpts from Thalassa Ali's Companions of Paradise, which, is the third book in her Paradise trilogy. And we also have some reviews of the novel.
It's a really range of perspectives.
Definitely. We're getting bits of the story itself, insights into the characters, historical events seen through their eyes, and even what critics thought about it. It's a custom deep dive just for you.
Okay, so our mission here is to really unpack the key insights from all these sources. We're zoning in on that blend. The reviews mention the history, the court politics, the personal stuff, and that thread of Sufi mysticism running through it.
We're after those aha moments, those surprising little details that make it all click.
Right, those nuggets of understanding. So where do we start the journey itself?
Let's start there. The story kicks off with a journey, moving from India towards Afghanistan. The sources put us about a day's march from Kabul.
Right?
And outwardly, maybe the place they're approaching seems ordinary. But Mariana, our main character here, she feels something else, a kind of persistent pull, almost a vision of the place before she actually sees it.
Interesting. So an internal feeling, not just the landscape.
Exactly. And we see this new world mostly through her eyes. You get contrasts right away, like seeing these ragged nomads who look identical to ones they saw miles back. It kind of emphasizes the vastness, maybe the uniformity of the hardship.
And the physical change too, right? Leaving India's heat.
Oh yeah, they're feeling the cold, adjusting shawls, a very tangible shift.
So they get closer to Kabul.
Yeah.
Any specific landmarks mentioned?
Yep, the sources name check a few. Crossing the Logar River at Bagrami, seeing the big Bala Hisar fort, then turning onto the Kohistan Road towards this new cantonment the British built.
Ah, the cantonment sounds important.
It is. And the novel doesn't just describe it as buildings. It's framed as a symbol, British political power, military muscle, basically saying, we're here, we're in charge.
But what about the people? Does Mariana notice them?
That's actually one of her first big takeaways. She's really struck by how different the men on the road look. Utterly unlike the Indians she's used to. It's like an immediate flag. Different place, different people, different rules.
And inside her own traveling group, is it all harmonious?
Not quite. We get glimpses straight away. There's her Aunt Claire. Sounds impressive when talking to officials, apparently. But privately, she's fretful, critical of Mariana, always complaining the servants don't understand her. You know the type.
I think I do.
And the uncle.
Uncle Adrian. He seems more focused on the British social scene, like race meetings, who's who among the officers. But he does give Mariana some practical advice.
Oh, like what?
Warnings about Afghan manners. Specifically, don't talk to strange men. Don't even meet their eyes. Apparently, that's considered extremely rude. Sets up immediate social boundaries for her. Wow, okay, so pressure from the outside and inside.
And maybe something darker simmering, too. There's this little detail where Mariana overhears Aunt Claire actually wishing some man dead. It just hints that beneath the surface politeness, there's some pretty strong negative feelings already flowing.
So it's not just the external landscape that's fraught with tension.
Not at all. Which brings us nicely to Mariana herself, her inner world, and these really complex relationships that define her journey, especially her past with Hassan Ali Khan.
Right, the sources mention her reflecting on how she looks. Thinner, paler.
Yeah, thin face, ivory cheeks, skin smoothed by her servant Vijaya, shaped brows, hennaed curls, and then this ironic thought pops into her head. She looks like Hassan's wife again. Boom, that tells you there's a whole backstory there.
And it sounds like she blames herself for a lot of it.
Yeah.
The sources mention blunders in Lahore.
Oh, absolutely. She mentally lists them, announcing their marriage publicly, which humiliated Hassan and hurt someone else, Harry Fitzgerald. Then trying to divorce Hassan without proper grounds, making these wild accusations, thinking he was plotting to kill her family.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then running away when apparently there wasn't even any real danger. The sources really emphasized her regret, her self-blame. These were big mistakes with real consequences.
But despite all that, the connection is still there.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Despite the drama, the separation, it's deep. She apparently gave herself to him after his son, Sabur, was returned to him. She got this beautiful carved gold medallion from Hassan, and she sent him a letter quoting Rumi, the poet, all about longing and separation.
Wow, intense.
Very. But there's still uncertainty. She doesn't even know if he might have divorced her in the meantime. And she finds herself yearning for his home, Kamar Haveli, even though she admits it's not really her home. It's the only place she feels any longing for.
That's complicated. And what about that home, Kamar Haveli? Other people there are important too.
Yes, the sources bring in key figures from Lahore who are still relevant, like Safiya Sultana, Hassan's aunt. We see her there, chewing melon, leaning on a bolster. Very domestic scene. But she has this intense past. Believing she caused her mother's death in childbirth led to this terrible stomach pain for years until she found relief through a spiritual path, becoming a follower of the path.
So her own experience shapes how she sees others.
Exactly. She thinks Hassan is suffering from something similar, this grain of truth, guilt over his friend Yusuf's death, even though it was guards who actually killed him. She relates to that burden of feeling responsible.
And her role in the family?
She's apparently needed for the household accounts, but Hassan's mother actively keeps her away from him. So family politics are definitely in play.
And the son, Sabur.
Little Sabur. Safiya has a strong bond with him. But the poor kid. The sources say he's sad, and he has these visions. Seeing Afghanistan, mountains, sensing sorrow there.
Visions.
Yeah. And the sheikh, a spiritual figure they consult, thinks these visions are significant. That Sabur carries the burden of seeing the future. Adds this whole mystical layer to the family dynamics.
Okay, so we have Mariana, Hassan, Safiya, Sabur.
Yeah.
Anyone else crucial from that world?
Ghulam Ali, remember Mariana's servant? He becomes incredibly important. His journey back from India alone is perilous. He runs into these Ghilzai tribesmen and overhears them planning. This is critical. They're talking about attacking British soldiers at a place called Butkak, robbing a caravan at Tazeen, and crucially closing the passes into Afghanistan.
Closing the passes, that sounds bad.
It is. Ghulam Ali is terrified, especially for the British people. He manages to escape the Ghilzais, makes his way through the Khyber Pass. But now he's not just carrying Mariana's letter, he has this urgent warning of imminent danger. A message for Hassan.
So Hassan finds out about this?
Yes. He gets Ghulam Ali's message in Peshawar, and his reaction is immediate concern, specifically mentioning his uncle-in-law and other family members.
A clear nod to Mariana.
You got it. He knows he has to get to Kabul fast. He discusses the dangers with his companion, Zomai, and decides to push ahead with guards after the Logar River, leaving his main caravan behind.
He's rushing towards the danger Mariana's walking into.
Exactly. And there's this small, pregnant detail. He's riding a beautiful new horse named Gir Kush. It means gray bird in Turkey. It was a horse his friend Yusuf, the one who died, had just bought. It kind of links his personal grief to this urgent mission.
Wow. Okay, so while Mariana is arriving, settling in, dealing with her past, Hassan is racing towards her, driven by this warning.
Precisely. Which leads us to look closely at the world Mariana is entering in Kabul specifically, that British cantonment environment. The sources paint a picture of it being, well, dangerously out of touch. A kind of British bubble.
A bubble. How so?
Well, physically, the cantonment itself, yeah, it was meant to be impressive, but the sources point out major flaws like really poor planning, key supplies, the food stores, the ammunition were actually located outside the main defensive walls.
Outside. That seems incredibly risky.
Right. And their water came from an irrigation ditch that was completely exposed, easily cut off. Yet, despite these vulnerabilities, they're holding military drills on the parade ground, projecting this image of control.
So a disconnect between appearance and reality.
A big one. And you see it even more clearly in the conversations among the British officials. There's a dinner scene at Sir William McNaughton's place. He's the top political guy.
Who's there?
You've got General Elphinstone, the commander-in-chief, General Sale, a supposed hero, Captain Sturt, Captain Johnson, and Harry Fitzgerald, who we mentioned earlier.
Okay, and what's the talk?
Well, Elphinstone actually voices some concern. He points out these small Afghan forts near the cantonment, maybe seeing them as potential threats.
A moment of realism?
Maybe, but McNaughton just shuts him down, completely dismisses the idea that these little forts held by Afghans could possibly be a danger, just waves it away.
And Mariana's there, hearing this.
She is, and she has this internal reaction. The sources show her contrasting the British attitude calling Afghans mad dogs with what she knows, what she saw in Lahore, people defending their homes fiercely, the horror of that violence.
So she sees the danger in their dismissiveness.
Exactly. She recognizes the arrogance, the potential consequences, but she's also afraid. Afraid to speak up, knowing it would likely be seen as, disloyal or naive. It really shows how groupthink and prejudice can operate.
And this wasn't just a one-off conversation.
No, seems like a pattern. There's another discussion mentioned, maybe in Babur Shah's garden. McNaughton is talking about expanding British influence even further, taking Bukhara, Herat, while also wanting to cut costs in Afghanistan, maybe even send troops home because he thinks the country is peaceful.
Peaceful. While planning invasions elsewhere. That doesn't add up.
Not logically, no. And her uncle Adrian, to his credit, does raise a red flag about the supply lines being way too long and vulnerable, a key military point.
But they ignore him.
Seems like it. The talk just drifts to Afghan chiefs pouting and needing to be put down. Just shows a total lack of respect or understanding. Plus, you have Elphinstone wanting to leave because he's ill, and another officer, Brigadier Shelton, openly despising him. It's dysfunctional.
So they're just wrapped up in their own world, their own assumptions.
Completely. Underestimating risks, ignoring warnings, holding these prejudiced views of Afghans as children or cowards who are easily managed. It's the classic echo chamber, really. And you see how groups can get so isolated they miss vital signs from the outside.
And Harry Fitzgerald. Does he see it differently?
He does. When he shows up later, the sources give him this really stark comparison. He looks at the situation and compares it to the ancient Athenians at Syracuse.
The disastrous invasion.
Exactly. A huge military mistake, trapped far from home, cut off, basically fighting for their lives. His perspective is miles away from McNaughton's confidence.
Wow. So while the British leadership is digging itself deeper into denial, Mariana is actually finding other ways to navigate this world.
Yes, and that's a fascinating thread. While the officials are lost in their bubble, she starts exploring completely different paths to understanding, involving mysticism and unexpected guides.
Learning the local languages?
That's part of it. Uncle Adrian finds her a tutor, Munshi Sahib, Muhammad Shafidun, to teach her Urdu and Persian. But he's more than just a language teacher.
How so?
The sources portray him as quietly wise. He tells Mariana that knowledge is always limited, that everyone's understanding has value. He sort of gently opens doors for her, maybe nudging her towards Sufi ideas or practices.
And through him, she meets someone else.
Nur Rahman, an Afghan man seeking refuge, Pana asylum protection. He's living near the servants' quarters with the Munshi. He's got his own trauma, apparently fled from someone called Paindagul.
And Mariana's reaction?
It's mixed. Curiosity, yes, but also some revulsion. She even tells him not to touch her at one point.
But he becomes loyal.
Deeply loyal. First to Munshi Sahib, then to Mariana. He has his own intense desires, too, longing for paradise. And he gets really curious about some hidden paper Mariana carries, wondering if it holds some secret for him.
Okay, so the Munshi, Nur Rahman, any other guides?
A really significant one, Haji Khan. He's blind, described as a follower of the path, and known for understanding people's hearts.
A blind man who sees hearts. Interesting.
Isn't it? Mariana starts visiting him secretly. Nur Rahman takes her into the city, disguised in a chattery, that full veil. And Haji Khan apparently knows immediately she needs something, even before she asks.
What does he give her?
Arabic verses and prayer beads. It's a Darood, a devotional prayer. Munshi Sahib later explains that Christians are considered people of the book, like Muslims and Jews, and Haji Khan, being advanced on the spiritual path to peace, gave it to her for a reason connected to her journey. The exact reason isn't spelled out, though.
And does she? Be
Well,
Christian?
that's what's striking. She's uncertain, it's unfamiliar, but she decides to try reciting it. She makes a small mental adjustment, she feels, to protect her own faith.
And what happens?
She has this powerful dream, a desert, camel bells, the moon. But more than the images, she feels this incredible sense of peace afterward. Her fears lessen. She wonders if the dream is the answer to whatever question she took to Haji Khan.
A spiritual breakthrough, maybe?
Possibly. Though the Munshi later gives this cryptic comment that she shouldn't have made some promise connected to it the day before. So it's not simple. It suggests the path has its own complexities.
And there are other spiritual threads, too. Back in Lahore.
Yes, weaving through the background, Safiya Sultana uses a form of divination, the Umal of lost persons, trying to find out about Mariana, whom she calls Mariam, guided by Sabor's visions. And as the news from Afghanistan gets worse back home, the Sheikh gives Sabor a specific verse from the Quran, from Surah Inshirah. With every difficulty, there is relief. It's like these different forms of seeking guidance, visions, divination, prayer are happening alongside the military and political drama.
Offering different kinds of hope, maybe?
Or different ways of coping, understanding. It shows a world where those things are deeply integrated into life, not separate from it.
Okay, so we have the British blindness, Mariana's seeking. The tension is palpable. When does it finally snap? When does the storm break?
It breaks, and it breaks violently. The sources clearly link the escalation to all those things the British ignored: the perceived interference, the broken promises, the disrespect for Afghan leaders and customs. Characters like Ghulam Ali saw it coming. Shah Shuja felt it. The chiefs were angered by it.
And Akbar Khan's return adds fuel to the fire.
Definitely. He's back, seeking revenge for his father, Dost Muhammad, who the British had deposed. The stage is set for explosion.
And the first major casualty is Alexander Burns.
Yes. A truly horrific event. Mariana is actually in the city on another secret visit when his house is attacked. She witnesses the aftermath. The sources detail Burns trying to escape disguised as an Afghan, being betrayed, and then killed brutally by the mob.
They mention the weapons specifically, don't they?
They do. Churas, kukris, daggers, katars, khanjars, jembias. Listing them makes the violence feel very real, very specific to that place and time.
And Mariana's reaction.
She sees it as a direct consequence of that British pride and blindness she had observed earlier, a terrible, predictable outcome.
And then, MacNaughton himself, the envoy.
The leader. He arranges a meeting with Akbar Khan and other chiefs. He's still trying to negotiate unbelievably. He's even offered the head of another chief, Amanullah Khan, as part of some deal.
But Uncle Adrian warned him about betrayal.
He did, and it happens exactly as feared. It's sudden, violent. MacNaughton is killed, Captain Trevor too. Two other officers, Lawrence and Mackenzie, are captured.
And the aftermath is gruesome.
Horrifyingly so. MacNaughton's body is dismembered, parts displayed publicly in the main bazaar, the charchada. His torso hung from a meat hook. Just absolute desecration.
How does the news land back in the cantonment?
Initially, General Elphinstone tries to downplay it, still trying to manage perceptions even then, but the reality sinks in fast.
So the misjudgments have led directly to this.
Undeniably. The violence is the terrible harvest of that complacency, that lack of understanding. The cantonment, that symbol of triumph, is now under direct threat. The bubble hasn't just burst, it's been shattered.
Which must lead straight into the retreat, the infamous retreat from Kabul.
Exactly, retreat and suffering. The situation inside the cantonment goes from bad to desperate very quickly.
How so?
That parade ground fills up with tents, baggage, people seeking refuge. They even bring the native bazaar inside the walls for safety. But supplies just vanish. No coffee, grain running out, and the cold. The Afghan winter is brutal.
And leadership. Any coherent plan?
Doesn't sound like it. Brigadier Shelton gives Mariana this bizarre advice, basically. Go ask your enemies for protection. It sounds almost mad.
Yikes. And there are battles happening outside.
Yes. On January 6th, the Battle of Bibi Maro. Mariana watches it from a roof with Lady Sale.
Lady Sale. She sounds like quite a character.
Apparently very matter-of-fact, even watching disaster unfold. The sources have her complaining about the strategic blunders, the supply fort being outside, only having one gun, poor training, just laying out the mistakes as she sees them.
What do they see happening in the battle?
A total defeat. British infantry squares getting cut up, losing men, the cavalry ineffective, the enemy just pouring over them, capturing artillery, including Fitzgerald's gun.
Fitzgerald? Didn't he get hurt?
Lady Sale reports it bluntly. Fitzgerald shot.
Does Mariana see him?
She visits the hospital later. Lady Sale warns her it's horrific, and the description backs that up: the smell, the sounds, the terrible wounds. She has this brief, very awkward moment with Fitzgerald, sees the raw longing in his eyes. A very human moment amid the chaos.
And then the retreat itself begins. That same day.
January 6th. And the scale of the disaster is just immense. Not just soldiers, remember. Maybe 12,000 camp followers, unarmed men, women, children, many without shoes, babies, in the bitter cold.
It's hard to even imagine.
And the route is a death trap. The passes Kurd Kabul, Jagdalak are blocked by tribesmen waiting for them. Baggage gets looted immediately. Afghan fighters just harry the column constantly, picking them off with artillery and knives from the hills.
And Mariana's in the thick of it.
She is. Walking, freezing, exhausted, numb, seeing the smoke rising from the abandoned fort behind them, just despairing, knowing the column is doomed.
But Nur Rahman, he had a plan.
Her loyal servant, yes. He decides they shouldn't stick with the main column. His plan is to travel parallel to it, through the countryside, trying to avoid the worst of the fighting, and then rejoin the British camp, if possible, after dark.
A huge risk, but maybe the only chance.
Seems like it. A desperate move, born of loyalty and probably better knowledge of the terrain than the British commanders had.
So they strike out on their own. That leads to, well, seeking refuge differently.
Right. Seeking refuge in unexpected encounters. Their separate journey is still incredibly harsh, freezing cold. But there are moments. They find a roadside tea shop, get some warmth, some soup. Mariana has to trade a gold ring for it. Survival comes at a cost.
And then she encounters an Afghan chief.
Yes, a really pivotal moment. She's found by Aminullah Khan. The source isn't totally clear where, maybe near the fighting, maybe separated from Nur Rahman briefly. She's terrified.
And he recognizes her, or asks questions.
He asks very pointed questions. Why didn't she tell him she was married? And crucially, who is her husband? Then he takes her to his fort.
To his fort. Is she a prisoner?
It seems more like protection. Surprisingly, she finds safety there. Real safety. Much more than in the cantonment or on the retreat. And she's reunited with her aunt and uncle and servants Ditu and Yar Muhammad. There's this huge sense of relief.
How does Aunt Claire react to being hosted by Afghans?
Oh, typically. She eats the food notes. The rice pudding was good, but refuses to speak to the women hosting them, calling them savages. Uncle Adrian is angry at Mariana for, getting separated or disobeying, but his main question is practical. Which chief took you in?
And Mariana tells him.
She whispers the name, Aminullah Khan.
Okay, so they're safe for a bit. How does she leave?
She leaves the fort with Aminullah Khan's own traveling party, his kafila, and then Nur Rahman finds her again. He'd been sent by Munshi Sahib, who promised him a great reward for bringing Mariana back safely.
So her network is still working for her.
It is, and as they're traveling, Mariana spots another caravan in the distance. Veiled women. She initially thinks maybe it's just another group. She guides her camel aside.
But it's not just another group.
No. She sees him, Hassan, on his distinctive gray horse.
Oh my God. After everything.
Exactly. Her reaction is immediate. Urgent message to Nur Rahman, describe Hassan, describe the horse, tell him who you are, hurry. You can feel her anxiety as Nur Rahman runs back towards Hassan's approaching group.
Does Nur Rahman reach him?
Yes. The sources show him waiting at a bridge, Pulakishti, seeing Hassan arrive. He gives Hassan the gold medallion Mariana had sent him earlier. That little object is the key, Hassan realizes.
And the reunion, where does it happen?
It seems like Mariana goes to him, probably at Akbar Khan's camp where Hassan was headed. She finds him. His first reaction is very practical, according to the sources. Write to your uncle. Take off your chadari.
No grand emotional scene.
Not initially. But then comes the core revelation. Mariana tells him simply, pointing back towards Aminullah's group perhaps, that man is my husband.
His reaction.
Surprise. And then the immediate logical question that loops back to everything. Why didn't you tell Aminullah Khan you were married? It highlights the gap in understanding the consequences of past actions right there at the moment of reunion.
Wow. So they find each other, but the complexities are still right there between them.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a point of reflection. Looking back at Mariana's whole journey.
It's been quite something. Adventure, danger, that mystical side, the relationships.
It really has. Think about her trying the Darood, finding that sense of peace and confidence, however fleeting or complicated. Her connections, the wisdom from Munshi Sahib, the insight from Haji Khan, the fierce loyalty of servants like Ghulam Ali and Nur Rahman.
They all played a part.
Crucial parts. And now, maybe she's found this earthly companion in Hassan again. If, and it's a big if, they survive what comes next.
Because the broader picture is still incredibly bleak, right?
Utterly bleak. We have to remember the fate of that main retreating column. Only one survivor, Dr. Bryden, reached Jalalabad. People like General Elphinstone, Lady McNaughton, Mrs. Sturt, others. They're presumed to be hostages of Akbar Khan. Their future is completely uncertain.
It really drives home how personal stories unfold within these huge, often tragic historical events.
Exactly, and that's what these sources capture so well. That blend of history, the first Anglo-Afghan war, with these intimate personal journeys, the cultural details we picked up on, Pana, Sandali, Chaderi, Jambiya, Jazail, all enriching the picture, and that constant thread of spiritual seeking.
Well, that was quite the deep dive through the materials you provided. From the flawed assumptions of the British leaders all the way to Mariana's personal struggles, her discoveries, finding Hassan again, all against this incredibly dramatic historical backdrop.
It really was fascinating, and exploring your specific sources gave us this unique close-up view of a really complex time, didn't it? It shows how vital it is to consider all the different angles, even the conflicting viewpoints within the sources, to get anywhere near the full picture.
Thank you again for sharing these sources with us, letting us explore them together.
Our pleasure. And maybe a final thought to leave you with, drawing from that world we just visited. We saw all these characters searching, didn't we? searching for peace, for safety, for understanding, even in the middle of terrible violence, whether they look for it in prayer or visions or just finding a familiar face. That human quest for connection, for meaning, it just doesn't stop. What does that relentless drive tell you, maybe, about navigating uncertainty in your own life, finding your own path?